National Council of State endorses currency redesign policy. Domestic stock market records 0.1% drop plus. Cameroon restricts movement along Equatorial Guinea border over unexplained deaths. Hello, this is News Live and Viewer Television. I am Jennifer Okolo. Many thanks for joining us. Well, the Council of State has advised President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to print more redesigned Naira notes or allow the new and old banknotes to circulate concurrently to ease the tension caused by the scarcity of cash. The Council approved the redesign policy of the CBN but faltered its implementation. Briefing State House correspondents after the Council meeting, chaired by the President, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who was flanked by Governor Darius Ishaku of Taraba State and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, said the Council illuminated the need for the aggressive action by the CBN to ensure adequate supply of the Naira in the system for proper implementation of the policy.
Particularly that the CBN governor should look into making sure that money is available, the new money is available in quantum. And there were suggestions too that if the new money is not in circulation or printing them could be difficult, the old money that could be recirculated and pumped into circulation to ease the tension, particularly for the poor people in our society.
On the 2023 elections, Malami also expressed the Council's satisfaction with the level of preparation by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and other institutions.
Issues of interest, particular regard to the election and Naira perhaps the redesign, the Council of State meeting was summoned by the President, and arising from it, elaborate deliberations and discussions were held among the members of the Council of State. Opinions were expressed, advices given, and indeed consultations made.
They have, and even in places where there has been a few disruptions, that they are convinced that they can bounce back. And specific mention were made of one or two places where they said they've recovered and that they've given the country assurance that everything that needs to be done to have the election at the set date are on track. And they thank both the executive and the legislature for supporting them, and that Nigerians should be well assured and should be well mind put at rest.
Moving on, the Nigerian government said it will comply with the Supreme Court suspension of the deadline to swap the Naira notes for new ones. Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, said the government will obey the Supreme Court ruling. Malami, who spoke in an interview, said the government was hopeful that an expurity ruling which expires on Wednesday, February 15, 2023, will be overturned. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, had insisted that Friday, February 10th, will be the deadline for the old 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira notes to be used as legal tenders and be replaced by redesigned ones. However, Kaduna, Zamfara, and Kogi state governments on Monday instituted a suit against the federal government at the Supreme Court over the scarcity of old and new Naira notes due to the CBN Naira design policy. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of 6 to 7 radio and television stations. This was disclosed by the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC), Balarabe Ilela during a briefing with journalists in Abuja. Ilela, who reeled out NBC's scorecard, noted that the nation currently has 740 functional broadcast stations in Nigeria. He, however, said the commission finds 17 broadcast stations since the commencement of the 2023 presidential campaign in September. He added that the commission has also sanctioned 302 for various infringements of the broadcast code. The NBC said it had deployed all the technical and operational facilities for the monitoring of the elections. Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has said that university lecturers that will be deployed for this year's general elections as ad hoc collation and returning officers must swear to an oath of neutrality. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said this in Abuja during a meeting with vice chancellors of Nigerian federal universities at the National Universities Commission (NUC). According to him, the oath of neutrality is for all election staff in line with Section 26 of the Electoral Act 2022. Yakubu further said the Commission will not deploy any university teacher with obvious political learning for the elections. On his part, the Executive Secretary of NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, urged the lecturers that will be deployed for the elections to be professional in the discharge of their duties. Still on electoral matters, the Presidential Campaign Council (PCC) of the All Progressive Congress (APC) has cancelled its second campaign visit to Kano, scheduled to hold on February 16th. The announcement was made via the Twitter handle of the party's PCC and signed by its secretary, James Falake. However, Falake did not give any reason for the cancellation of the scheduled event. The APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima had visited the state in January, where they both promised good governance and completion of all ongoing projects by the Muhammadu Buhari regime. The rally was scheduled as part of campaign activities for the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima ahead of the February 25 poll. Over to census, as Nigerians count down to the conduct of the 2023 National Population and Housing Census, the National Population Commission has inaugurated the Population and Housing Census Publicity Committee to create more awareness and inform Nigerians on the need for credible and acceptable national census in Nigeria. The chairman of the commission, Nasir Kwara, says the inauguration of the Population and Housing National Census Publicity Committee marks another milestone in the Commission's journey towards the successful conduct of the 2023 census. Kwara, who is a co-chair of the committee, said the census will generate evidence-based demographic data for development planning purposes for Nigeria. He also said that the vision of the 2023 census is to produce not only accurate, reliable, and acceptable census data, but an inclusive and user-friendly data that will be used by all segments of the society for development, planning, and critical program interventions. The chairman reassured Nigerians and the international community that the National Population Commission is irrevocably committed to ensuring that everything about the 2023 census is done rightly and professionally. When News Live returns, media's civil-military relations stakeholders has held its first media chat in Maiduguri. Details of this and more comes to you right after the break.
Two souls came together. Forever now.
Tat Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is News Live and Viewer Television. Here's a recap of our top stories. National Council of States endorses currency redesign policy. Domestic stock market records 0.12% drop plus. Cameroon restricts movement along Equatorial Guinea border over unexplained deaths. Us. Now, moving on, the military said it will strengthen relations in peace support operations to enhance non-kinetic lines of operation towards ensuring a secured Nigeria. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, made the disclosure during the first quarter 2023 media chat at Malari Cantonment in Maiduguri. Correspondent Beatrice Kuritsi has more.
The first quarter media chart tagged media as a critical tool in addressing insecurity in Nigeria was an interface forum to discuss challenges on information dissemination gaps between the military and the populace. The media, which plays an essential role in perception management in the fight against insecurity, has a huge task in peace and development. The Chief of Army Staff said the civil-military relations will be strengthened to enhance internal security operations against terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping.
This media chat is timely as it is coming up about 2 weeks before the 2023 general election to provide security in support of civil authority. In providing such support, the military's involvement are often questioned by sections of society, and the media chat provides an avenue to clarify the extent of our involvement and also helps to shape public perspectives on the roles of the army in the situation.
A panel discussion and a paper presentation titled "The Role of the Media in Enhancing Civil-Military Cooperation in Joint Operations Environment" highlighted mutual modalities that will help build trust between the media and the military.
I also strongly believe that the media must partner. And I was telling my sister during the tea break that I get frustrated because we like to go with the bandwagon. Let's criticize them. Let's condemn them. They are all wrong. They are all thieves. But some of us must shift through all that and say, you know what, I want to know the good intention of this government.
Now, if you charge the military for not doing their job, have we ever investigated to be sure that the military has all what it needs, all the resources that is required for the operations that it is going to carry on? Do they have enough financing? Do they have enough in the budget? Budget is one thing, releases is another.
Is that we are all Nigerians. Our main focus is to see the development and survival of our country in everything that we do. To any action or inaction that might affect the success of our country, I think we should take a second look at this. Maybe because most people want their news to be important, so we are quick at castigating the military.
The military, being the forerunner of security across the country, keenly expects suggestions made for the media to be patriotic in its reportage and publications, be reflected for the sake of peace and lessen security tensions within the country.
Moving on to Bauchi State, the Bauchi State government, through the Ministries of Agriculture, Education, Health, and the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, in collaboration with the USAID Breakthrough Action Nigeria, intensify awareness creation campaign in school around the state on Lassa fever. This is coming as the state is battling with more cases and increasing mortality rate in some local governments, which is why the need to ensure adequate preventive measures are being taken to prevent further spread of the deadly disease. Our Bauchi State correspondent Awal Hassan completes the story.
Certain cases of Bauchi State calls for awareness campaigns. The state ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, Education, Health, as well as the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency have collaborated with the USAID Breakthrough Action Nigeria to make sure that students, especially in boarding schools, understand the preventive measures.
Definitely in the state, we've been having reports of Lassa fever in some of the local governments, almost five of them. Kirfi, Bauchi, Tafawa Balewa, Toro, Ganjua. These are 5 local governments that have been reporting this case of Lassa fever. And Bauchi is among the local government.
We have concern because, as I told you, it's a disease that the state has been battling with for quite some time now. And we know it's one of the fatal zoonotic diseases, and it's been transmitted by rats. And we know rats are everywhere. And so that's why we feel coming to discuss with these students will be very important, because these students are coming from different LGS, some even outside the state. So we believe by the time we sensitize them, this information will go a long way, and a lot of people will get to understand how important the disease is and what are the things needed to prevent themselves from getting infected.
At the Government Girls College Bauchi, the emphasis is on preventive measures and symptoms of Lassa fever, which is necessary for people to know for the safety of their lives.
Yeah, one of the key things is we inform them on how you get infected. We said usually it's from rat, but then also people that get infected can also infect other people, so you can also have transmission from human to humans. And so we also went down and discussed few of the symptoms you see, on key of which is the fever, just from the name Lassa fever. You see fever, you see diarrhea, sometimes you have vomition, sometimes you have generalized weakness of the body at the initial stages. So when the condition gets bad, you begin to see bleeding coming from orifices, and then usually patients hardly respond. So we encourage them to report cases early, so we can be able to treat early, and so we successfully save the life of that particular patient.
For the principal of the school, this sensitization is timely, the knowledge of which would be extended to the rest of the students who were not part of the gathering.
Yes, that's why my teachers are here. The senior mistress, academics, and senior master too is here. Then their club and society mistress, so that they will arrange on how they are going to emphasize on this sensitization. And I promise that on Monday there will be a program or a drama and presentation on this sensitization.
Similar campaign was carried out at the Federal Government Girls College Bauchi. Awal Hassan, Viva TV News, Bauchi.
Well, still in Bauchi State, the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital Bauchi has successfully carried out its final surgery on a 63-year-old man who has not been able to walk and move some part of his body for some years. Dr. Olabisi Ogunlaye, a consultant neurosurgeon who operations is not unconnected to the enabling environment given by the management of the hospital, especially in terms of providing the needed equipment which is up to date. Our Bauchi State correspondent Awad Hassan tells us more.
This is the modular theatre of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi, which is fully equipped with the latest equipment needed to carry out the most complicated surgical operations, including spinal surgery.
Okay, here we are in modular theater, and we are operating on Alhaji Sani Ibrahim, a 63-year-old man who presented with inability to use both upper limbs and lower limbs, and he has not been working for the past 1 year. And from all our investigation, we discovered that he has what we call cervical degenerative disease, and this morning we'll be operating on him. first of its kind in SBUTH. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be doing perpetually of C4 and we'll be doing description of C71.
Two neurosurgeons, a consultant anesthetics and their team, including some nurses, took more than 5 hours to accomplish. The operation was, however, successfully done, as put forward by Dr. Olabisi Agulai.
Yeah, the surgery was a successful one, and it's first of its kind in the history of our teaching hospital, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the first teaching hospital, Bauchi, and we did it, and it was a successful one, and it gladdens our heart that this has been possible.
Alhaji Sani Ibrahim is a patient who has not been able to move some parts of his body for some time, but having undergone this operation, now has a different story to tell.
I cannot raise my hand, leg, I can raise them now, everything. I can even walk like this.
Oh my God!
Initially I cannot do this.
Excellent.
I don't do it like that. You see, in fact, I thank God, I thank the teachers, more especially my doctor, Dr. Abudlay. Yeah.
With this development at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, does that change the people's narrative about going to other states and abroad to seek to medical solutions?
They have to go to Kano, to go to Abuja, some people have to go to Lagos, even outside the country, just because we don't have all the necessary things to offer them these services. But now, when you are here, once you come, we can offer you these services. And apart from offering you these services, we offer it at a subsidized rate, which is easier for all our teeming populations because they can get it at affordable prices. Not the prices they will get it at Kano or in Abuja or outside the country. And also, for the rest of the country, anywhere they can also come over here because they are sure that they will get the best services at affordable prices.
Abul Hassan, URTV News, Bauchi.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, NITP, has advocated capital punishment for violators of building control standards to minimize building collapse. NITP National President Nathaniel Atebije made the call at the Institute's quarterly press conference. He said it was unacceptable that the country had recorded 4 building collapse tragedy this year in FCT, Lagos and Rivers States. He however called for rigorous enforcement of city management and building control standards to curb incidents of building collapse. Well, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to tackle the menace of child rights infringements and poverty across the country. Speaking at the event, which took place at the United Nations office in Abuja, NESG Chairman Niyi Yusuf said the aim of the collaboration was to join forces with UNICEF in supporting Nigerian government's efforts in addressing issues affecting children and reducing poverty in the country. According to him, the partnership is geared towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in education, health, and other child rights issues in Nigeria. It also geared towards interfacing and advocating a child-centered approach to development in Nigeria. Well, you are still watching News Live on Viewer Television. Business and international news come to you right after this break. Just stay tuned. Well, on business today, Naira scarcity caused by the Central Bank of Nigeria's redesign and cash withdrawal policy has pushed point-of-sale transactions to 807.16 billion naira in January 2023. This is a 40.69% year-on-year increase from the 573.72 billion naira transactions that was done in January 2022. According to new data from the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, total cashless transactions in Nigeria rose by 45.41% year-on-year to 39.58 trillion naira in January 2023. The NIBSS monitors cashless transactions through the Nigerian Instant Payment System and point-of-sales terminals. Total NIP transactions for the period rose by 45.50% year-on-year from 26.65 trillion naira as of January 22 to 38.77 trillion naira as of January 2023. The usage of electronic channels for transactions grew by 45.50% year-on-year from 438.48 million times to 638 million times in the period under review. Well, Nigerians, especially bank customers, were grappled with confusion and uncertainty over whether today's deadline for the Central Bank of Nigeria for the phasing out of the old Naira note still remains, or it has been suspended following the Supreme Court injunction obtained by some northern governors. The Supreme Court had on Wednesday ruled that the deadline should be suspended pending the determination of the case brought before it by the governors of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara states. The court has fixed February 15 to entertain the case. However, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, in a response to the suits, among other things, said the Supreme Court lacked jurisdiction on the matter. However, a day before the deadline, on Thursday, commercial banks in the country and bank customers were thrown into confusion as to whether the old 1,000 naira notes, 500 naira and 200 naira would cease to be legal tender or will retain the status pending when Supreme Court will look into the suits brought before it by the governors. According to several top bank executives, they could not tell whether the Friday deadline will be enforced, hinging their argument on the grounds that the CBN, the banking sector regulator, had yet to give directives to the banks. Meanwhile, the Trade Union Congress has threatened to take constitutional and legal ways against the federal government over the lingering scarcity of new Naira notes and fuel. Speaking during a press conference in Abuja, the national president of the trade union body, Festus Osifo, noted that many Nigerians were on the brink of financial collapse due to the policy initiative of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Also speaking on the issue of fuel scarcity and planned hike in pump price, Osifo called for the construction of local refineries. On the steps to take should the government refuse to settle the present issues, Osifo said the TUC has no choice but to defend the populace and prevent any tragic scenario or situation. Moving on to stock markets, the domestic stock market witnessed a downturn at the end of Thursday's trading session as profit-taking activity continued on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Group Limited. This led to a decline in major indices at the exchange as the all-share index ASI of listed equities depreciated by 67.15 basis points, representing a 0.12% drop to close at 54,359.90 points, lower than 54,427.05 of the previous day. The sum of 56.57 billion naira was lost on market capitalization to settle at 29.608 trillion naira on Thursday, compared to Wednesday's 29.644 trillion naira. The NGX recorded gainers, 16 and 17 decliners at the close of the trading session. Meanwhile, trading activity hinged up the total deals volume, value increasing by 10.52%, 46.84% and 67.69% respectively to 3,281 trades, 222.58 million units and 3.04 billion naira.
Pararam pra reparar, estão ouvindo esse som, pulsando seco no ar, merece nossa atenção. Preparem bem os sensores para poder captar, parem usinas, motores.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm at the Envoy Hotel, Diplomatic Drive 305, here for a business weekend. It's been an amazing stay. Conference hall and business facilities here are stylish and innovative. The Envoy Hotel is luxury, esoteric, opulent, for ultimate comfort.
Discerning travelers, we are more than just a place to stay. We are an icon of comfort, style, and thoughtful luxury. We are Envoy Hotel.
Welcome back. Now, news around the world. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a state of national disaster in an attempt to stem the mine in the daily life and economy of the continent's leading industrial power. The ceremony was interrupted as soon as it began by members of the radical left-wing Economic Freedom Fighters EFF party who rushed to the podium where Ramaphosa was standing. However, they were excluded from the hall. The movement's leaders had vowed not to let the delinquent president speak. Embroiled in a scandal with a tainted money trail, Ramaphosa escaped impeachment proceedings in December backed by the ANC. A police investigation is still underway. The historic party subsequently re-elected him as its leader, assuring him of a second term as head of state if the ANC wins the 2024 general elections. While still in Africa, Cameroon has restricted movement along its border with Equatorial Guinea following several unexplained deaths from hemorrhagic fever, the health ministry disclosed on Friday. The restrictions were imposed in view of the high risk of importation of it and respond to any cases at an early stage, it said in a statement. Investigations are underway and epidemiological surveillance has been strengthened with the support of experts from the World Health Organization and the Atlanta Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Equatorial Guinea said in a statement that it had registered an unusual situation over the past weeks in its Nsomo district, Kir Interim province, that caused 9 deaths. Cameroon's health ministry issued a statement on Thursday saying it had recorded around 20 deaths in villages in Equatorial Guinea's Kir Interim province, which borders Cameroon. The symptoms of the non-identified illness were nosebleeds, fever, joint pain, and other ailments that caused deaths within a few hours. The head of health for the district, Ingu Franken Roland, said in a statement. Meanwhile, U.S. lawmakers have unanimously denounced China's use of a suspected spy balloon that flew over North America last week. The vote allowed lawmakers to agree on a bipartisan stance on Beijing after several balloon-related political skirmishes. The balloon's days-long flyover from Alaska to South Carolina captured the attention of regular Americans and officials alike before the U.S. military shot it down off the country's east coast Saturday. The House of Representatives passed a resolution condemning the Chinese Communist Party's use of a high-altitude surveillance balloon over United States territory as a violation of United States sovereignty. However, Republicans had heavily criticized President Joe Biden's response to the incursion, accusing his administration of being weak in the face of Chinese aggression. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said Beijing was strongly dissatisfied with the U.S. resolution, calling it pure political manipulation and hype. Now over to Turkey. The bodies of 7 Cypriot students killed in the powerful earthquake that hit Turkey have been returned home, with Turkish media reporting that 19 children in the group died. 24 children aged 11 to 14 and the island, along with 10 parents, 4 teachers and a volleyball coach, were in the southern Turkish city of Adıyaman and when this quake hit. The 7.8 magnitude tremor, whose epicenter was near Gaziantep, about 130 kilometers southwest of Adıyaman, has claimed the lives of more than 21,000 people in Turkey and Syria. The children had been taking part in a school volleyball tournament and had been staying in a hotel in Adıyaman that was completely destroyed by the quake. And that's all in Newsline. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. National Council of State endorses currency redesign policy. Domestic stock market records 0.12% drop. And in the international scene, Cameroon restricts movement along Equatorial Guinea border over unexplained debt. Now, many thanks for watching. I am Jennifer Okolo. Please stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Do have a lovely evening.